Oh, hey, Alice. Good timing. You walked in. We're here with Jonn Nicholson from Not Your Nails. Thanks for being here, John.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And I got Cordie too. You remember Cordie.
Yeah.
Jonn is in a band called Not Your Nails, the Nine Inch Nails cover band. He also heads I Productions. They have a few events, Women to the Front and Industrial Night. Industrial Night is this July 9th. It's a benefit for Music Cares, so that's really cool. I'm really looking forward to that. And you guys also have a show in Memphis coming up June 10th with Gonna Be Friends in Memphis. So that's gonna be cool too.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun one.
Can you tell us a little bit about the roots of Industrial Night? Like how did you start these events? What was your motivation?
Vanity.
Mhm. We love
I
honesty.
yeah, no, I started it in 2018. It was the fall, late summer. Yeah, it was August. And there were a lot of shows here in town. There was the rock and roll residency, there was Rare Hair, there was the grunge night events, and those were all, they're wonderful events, held by wonderful people, but there was never really an event that was more hard rock or industrial style music, stuff that I would, want to perform in and do stuff in more regularly. And because I had also had success with Not Your Nails, I wanted to kind of showcase that band a little bit more. And they couldn't really, we wouldn't really fit in with, like an 80s hair metal kind of night. So I reached out to different venues about this idea about doing industrial night, and Exit In was the first one that was, pretty gung ho about, like, yeah, let's do that. That sounds fun. So I kind of owe them everything for the success that I've had in music. But that's kind of how it started, was just me saying I want to do one of these big shows and see if I can do it, and also have my band play somewhere cool at the end of it.
Oh yeah.
And what was the community response to your first night? I know that it's overwhelming at this point. You have well over 100 people that are just willing to volunteer, but how did that start?
With the people that are playing in it
Both
specifically.
playing with it and attending.
Well, playing with it, it started out real small. A lot of it was people that I just met through bands that I've played with, or I've met through the other shows that I've attended. And I actually asked Tyson Leslie, I don't know if you're familiar with him. He does the Rare Hair shows. I had texted him and was like, hey, I'm doing a show very similar but different style of music. Can you kind of help me out with some people? Because while I knew a lot of people at that time, I didn't know nearly as many people as I do now. So it was, I might have known at max 15 to 20 people that are in the shows now. So I definitely needed more for the amount of songs and parts that were available. So I asked him for help. And luckily, a good chunk of those people that he sent me emails for responded. And, it just, I think the word got out that I did it, and people enjoyed it so much that whenever I did the second one, I had so many people reach out that wanted to be involved. As far as the audience goes, like, I could not have hoped for that first one to be as successful as it was. I would have been happy if 10 people showed up, and luckily it was not a sold out crowd, but it was close, and I'll take close to nothing at all.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, it was great. It was fun to see all that hard work that I put into it and step out on stage and be like, all these people are here because of something I put together. And that kind of is what sold me to do them, or to continue to do them.
Mhm.
Nice. How long have you been around? Where are you from?
How long have I been around? I've been around for a long time. I'm actually from here. I grew up in
Okay.
Nashville,
Cool.
yeah, in
Yeah.
Hermitage. I've been gone I left for about 10 years, and then I came back in 2015
Okay.
and kind of fell into music a little bit.
Gotcha.
Very cool.
So, like, I guess, do you have any notes or observations about since, let's say, 2015 to 2022, how Nashville has changed since then?
Yeah, yeah, it changes about every 6 months.
Right. Yeah.
Like the weather.
What it was in 2015 is nothing like what it is today. And, for better or worse, however you want to look at it. I mean, there are a lot of things that have changed for the better. A lot of things that I've adapted to that that I could fit in easier, but there are things that have changed for the worse. Venues closing, um, people moving, just the scene kind of shifting. There's been like a lot of a paradigm shift going on in the last few years, and I think COVID really kind of added to that change a
Yeah,
lot.
for
And it kind
sure.
of, yeah, there was already some changes happening, but I think that shutdown really pushed music into a different direction than it was going originally. So I think that kind of that adjustment period in 2021 to now has been a lot of kind of piecing together what works, what doesn't work. Well, let's try this on this show. Let's try this on this event and see kind of what works better in this new world that we're living in.
Yeah. And on those same lines of thinking, we just lost Mercy Lounge and High Watt. Another
Tannery.
that's a big L. That's a big loss.
Yeah, that was the Hideout was actually the first place I performed at as a musician in Nashville. I
Damn.
was a singer on Tom Hurst, who's a drummer, real big guy here in Nashville. He has this event that he did called, well, I guess he still does, he just doesn't do them as often, called Loud Jams, where it was basically what I do. And he did a lot of kind of modern pop, alt rock, 80s, new wave. I mean, it was a blend of music. I mean, there was all kinds of styles. I mean, they would do stuff like Tears for Fears and then have, Nine Inch Nails do some songs at the end, because that was actually one of the first songs I did with Nine Inch Nails publicly was at the Loud Jams. And so, that venue was a big piece of who I was in the music scene. It actually was one of the first venues that hot booked my band. I remember reaching out to them when I was trying to get Not Your Nails off the ground, and their booker John Burton actually reached out pretty quick and booked us for a night there, and that was a big deal. It was actually really easy a show to book. So it's sad that it's changing now into something
Okay.
new.
Mhm.
Yep.
I wanna dig into that a little bit, because you
Yeah.
mentioned, that they booked you with open arms. You were invited to participate in that, but not only that, somebody who was hosting a similar night was so willing to assist you with an industrial night.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people who come to Nashville with dreams of music encounter a lot of competition that they weren't expecting. It can be hard to find your roots, and it seems that you were able to fall into a crowd that wanted to foster a community that encourages everybody to grow.
Yeah.
Do you kind of see both sides of that? And
Kind of. I didn't like, honestly, I never saw a whole lot of the competition per se. I've always felt that Nashville was very inclusive and very like, well, for me, for welcoming. Um, I mean, there is slight competition with certain groups of musicians and people out there, but my experience with it has been nothing but supportive. And I think it's, like there's these big events that happen all the time that we have that go on, but we all of us that organize it, we're just, we all say the same thing. There's room for all of us in town, and we're all doing something different. It's not like I'm doing a show and then someone else is doing an industrial night show. It's each show is different, and each show offers, new things for everybody, and each crowd is going to be different. So it's not like we're leaching into the same pool in a way, if that makes sense. I mean, we may share musicians and we may share, a lot of the same talent, but it's never really, for me, it never from that end has never felt like a competition. It's always felt like a supportive thing. Anytime I needed help with something, usually someone was willing to say, hey, I had success doing this in my show, you might have help doing this, or if you need to lend, if I need to lend a hand offering gear for this show, I've got you. So I was fortunate enough to never really deal with like competition per se, or kind of people, trying to outdo me or anything like
yeah,
that.
like the scarcity mindset.
Yeah, it seems to me like it's a very put on kind of competition. Like there's no
Yeah.
need for competition. There's enough for everyone to eat, but it's like
Right.
I still see like, and this is something I've actually seen get better since I've been here since about 2015 also. And that's something like I've seen get a lot better is the clicky nature of it. It seems like they're a lot more open to play with different kinds. When I first moved up this way, like I kind of felt like a lot of the bands I was seeing were playing the same bills with a lot of the same people
Yep.
at a lot of the same locations. And I think it's getting better though. That's something that like we're actively trying to alleviate, is get everyone
Yeah.
on the same page. And it sounds like you're on the same page with us. Like we're
Yeah,
all on the
absolutely.
same team. And I
Yeah.
think this gets outside of Music City too. Like it gets
Yeah.
into every area of life. We are divided in pretty much every way we can be, but we're all on the same team. We're all a human team, and it's like, we disagree. We obviously there's going to be disagreements, but I think we all have to realize it's like, I guess compassion is like, if someone has ideas that are vastly different than yours, I think on my end, it's like at least to empathize with what makes them think that way.
Right.
Because realistically, if I was raised the same way they were, I would probably think the same way. And this is a bit of a rant, sorry, but like I was raised really religiously, and I think it's something when I was a teenager that really would have helped me would just someone taking the time to just tell me, why they disagreed with like the way what I was teaching. Because I was also a Jehovah's Witness, so it's like I was knocking on people's doors, and it's like you get a lot of like get the fuck out of here kind of thing, and that's fine. I totally understand.
Yeah.
But like if someone would have taken the time to be like, hey, actually, what you're teaching, this is where I disagree with it. Like open communication and empathy. Like if you're speaking to someone who disagrees with you, just be patient with them.
Yeah. That's always how I've tried to like run my shows, and I tell everybody this. I mean, Courtney, you've seen one of my emails. How detailed and how everything is kind of organized. I treat not only my emails but my shows that same way, because I want everybody to feel like they are all on the same page and that everybody has the same mindset and going into it. Because that was one thing that I wanted my shows to have is a sense of organization and clarity that some lack in. And I would take those notes when I do these shows, like, okay, well, nobody knows what's happening here, and I feel like there was a lot of chatter and kind of, well, what are we doing? I don't know, what does this person say, what does this person think? Well, I don't want that to happen. We're all out here to have a good time. So I've always kind of believed in the open door policy, and kind of being, here's my thoughts on the thing, what are your thoughts on it, and here's everything that I can present to you, so no one has any questions at the end of the day.
Yeah, and that's something I kind of wanted to remark upon about like my first interaction with you. Like I'll never forget you reaching out to me on Facebook and inviting me to be a part of what you do in any capacity that I'm able to, just because you want to bring people together, you want to give them the opportunity to network with other people in the scene. And this was at a time where it was right before I was starting to get some movement in what I was doing. And I've been in Nashville trying to pursue music since January of 2012. So to have somebody reach out to me and be like, hey, here's this community, would you like to be a part of it? Like, I was just like flabbergasted, for lack of a better word. And I think it was either that night or the next night that I ran into you at Exit In.
Yeah.
And you were just so kind to me. Like from our first few conversations, you've always treated me as if we were already best friends. And I love that there's somebody that like you that's doing that for our scene.
Well, thank you. That's kind. That's how I want it to presented. I want everything that I do to feel that kind of warmth, because that's how I was presented in a lot of the things that I got. Now I had to ask for favors here and there, but I was always kind of offered that kindness and that openness with certain things and support from my peers. And so I wanted to always give that out when I can and when available, because I think that's an important thing. And if you start on the right foot with the right people, then it kind of will carry you for years. And I'm still being carried by the support and help that I was given 7 years ago now. So it's very helpful.
Yeah. Hard segue. Do you have any ghost stories?
Do I have a few?
And I
I'll
guess
say,
I should clarify any you'd like to share.
well, here's the thing. Do you want one from when I was an adult, or do you want one from when I was a child? Because I have two.
um,
I have a few.
I'll take both if you'll give them to me.
Okay, I'll give you both. I'll give you one. Okay, so the one when I was a child, when I was a kid, we lived in this house that this elderly couple had passed away. And now, again, this is information that I didn't have going into it. I learned this years later. But when I was a kid, I had this imaginary friend that I would talk to, and his name was Charlie. And my mom said she would hear me talking at all hours of the night. I was also like, I suffered from insomnia growing up, so I didn't sleep a lot. So I was always like awake. And so anyway, years later, I don't know, I was probably like 9 or 10. My mom said this medium, she works in the court system, came in for jury duty, and she came up to her and said, "Believe your son, because he uh, has seen something, or he
Hmm.
believes something." Of course, this woman didn't know who my mom was, and she had a kid, and it's funny because she
Okay.
looked into it, and the guy that owned the house that had died, his name was Charles, and he had died there at an old age. So like, it just kind of put two and two together, like, oh shit, some guy named Charles died in that house, and I had an imaginary friend named Charlie growing up. It's kind of
What do you
weird.
remember about Charlie?
I don't really remember anything, honestly, because I was so young that I think I kind of
So you mostly
buried it.
remember your mom telling you about it?
I just remember, yeah, I just remember
Okay,
like her telling me the off, like the
gotcha.
stories from it. Like there were times where she would like give me a bath, and I would be getting dried off, and I'd be like looking over her shoulder, and she didn't know what I was looking at, and there'd be like no one in the house because we were alone. So that's something that I always remember growing up, that, oh, my mom was like, and around that time, like the Sixth Sense was like big. So she was like,
Mhm.
I don't know what the fuck's going on. Like, are you that kid? Can you see ghosts? Of course, I either grew out of it. Yeah, pretty much. I either grew out of it or just
Yeah.
lost the touch. I don't know.
What I think is
Um,
interesting is how what's the word I'm looking for? How common of a story that is with children
yeah.
to run into things like that. Anyway, I didn't
I
mean to
think
cut you off.
no, I think it's I think kids have a certain openness to see that kind of thing.
I agree.
That when you're an adult, you kind of lose that because it's like, your like a imagination or playing
Yeah.
pretend or whatever. I think that also goes along with being an adult, is you kind of push those things away when you grow up, when realistically, you can probably keep that, but it kind of gets beaten out of you when you
Mo-
get into the real
more
world.
on
And
that, because I
yeah,
totally agree with you. More on that. I think it's not a natural thing that occurs. I think it's something about our society that we live in.
right,
Whereas, like you were saying, like maybe there's a way to retain that imagination as you get older, but it's this society that beats us into a certain way of thinking.
right,
It has to do with open-mindedness, I think, is what allows these kids to explore different ideas. And that, I think, and maybe it's not a conspiracy, maybe it's just how things are. But I think in big part it has to do with our culture. And maybe if we had a different culture, these things would still be more accessible as adults.
right. Yeah, I think it's definitely something that some people, yeah, retain it. Like, that's why you have these psychic mediums and stuff,
Mhm.
that are older, because they were able to channel that energy growing up, and that's kind of why they're able to see whatever it happens to be.
I
So
think a
yeah,
lot of it has to do with trauma too. When
yeah,
adults that are able to tap into that, there's usually some kind of event that took place to trigger some kind of change that
right.
happens.
Well, I was really sick growing up. Like, I remember, like, I almost died whenever I was a kid. I don't remember how old I was. I just was very sickly. I was like allergic to everything. Like, I could barely eat anything.
Mm.
And I remember my parents telling me that I was probably 4, maybe 5, somewhere around in there, and my body temperature got like so high. They had to rush me to the hospital, like pack me in ice so that my body temperature would go down, because they were like, if he doesn't like cool down, he's just gonna die because his body's so hot. And they packed me in ice, and then overnight I got better. And then what was weird about that is I just was fine after that incident. Like, I was able to eat shit, and like I wasn't dying all the time. So something happened in my body that it just burned itself out, I guess. And then going to the hospital and getting cooled down kind of, I guess, leveled me out. I really don't know. I never really got a clear answer as to what happened or what they thought changed there. But yeah, that was my near-death experience growing up.
You okay. You had mentioned earlier that like almost all of your memory of Charlie comes from your mom telling you about it.
Yeah.
Do you remember much of anything from that age?
Uh,
Do you have any strong memories from that age? You don't have to share them.
ye-
I'm just curious if you do have that kind of retention, or if it's just specifically that entity that's kind of blocked from you.
yeah, I mean, I definitely have memories. I mean, I'm in my 30s now, so there's, after a certain period of time, you start to lose those kind of core memories growing up. But I have certain things that I remember
Mm.
from being really young. There's a couple of memories that I have that are just like nothing particularly special. I just remember them. Like I remember going to like my half sister's home when I was a kid and singing, swinging on her porch with her. I remember that. Nothing spectacular happened to that trip or anything like that. I remember being a kid, probably, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 years old, maybe younger than that, being at my grandmother's house and standing in her yard. So it's like I have little bits and pieces and fragments of certain memories that I've retained for whatever reason. My brain's decided to categorize them as important.
Yeah. And I got more to ask about that, but first I want to hear your adult story.
Oh, my adult story is it's kind of it's not like super crazy, but have you ever heard of Waverly Hills Sanatorium in Kentucky?
I don't think,
It's like a haunted attraction in Louisville.
huh.
It's an old insane asylum mental hospital that got shut down in I think the
Okay.
40s, maybe the 50s, and they turned it into this kind of paranormal like museum. You can go and do ghost tours. That show Ghost Hunters did like a live lock in there one night.
Mm.
I think it was like their first Halloween show they did back in 2006, maybe it was. And so anyway, we went up there, me and my buddies went there because you can actually like take these guided tours and they're like $40 for 3 hours or whatever.
Mm.
And they take you through this whole hospital and there's no natural electricity in there. The only electricity that's in the entire place is just in the front like gift shop area that they have wired because they've externally wired, power to get there. But the actual hospital, most of it doesn't have windows anymore. Most of the doors are gone. There's no locks on anything, but they walk you through all these rooms and kind of tell you these different stories and different experiences have happened over the years. And there was one where we were standing in a hallway and it could have been psychosomatic. It could have been they put that thought in my head, but I felt like I kind of go into these things as a skeptic. So I think the fact that I felt that I saw something kind of stands out to me. But there was one point where we're standing in a hallway and the tour guide is talking about something over here. And I just happened to look down this long corridor and I very distinctly remember seeing this like what looked like a person walk across the hallway and like a silhouette of a person. Like it was very distinct. I saw the legs, like you can see the legs walking. I saw it walk across the hallway from one door to the other. And I kind of like, raised my hand and the tour guide asked, is something wrong? And I said, yeah, is there someone down there? Is there like another tour going on? Is there like a maintenance guy? And the guy said, no, we're the first like tour of the night. There's nobody that goes on that side of the hospital. And I remember that just kind of like planted in my brain and kind of made the hairs on the back of my neck sit up because I was like, I very distinctly saw someone walking back there. It wasn't like I saw it out of the corner of my eyes. I looked directly at it and it's, I saw this shadow person walking across the hall. So that's always stuck with me. And that was, I don't know, maybe 6 or 7 years ago now. I think that was the first year I moved back to Nashville.
Did you associate that as like feeling particularly sad or dark or neutral or positive?
Um,
Like with that being, a prior hospital, I feel like there was probably a lot of pain that took place. So I was just curious if you associated any emotions with it.
there were a lot of like, for me personally, no, I didn't. I mean, it spooked me, kind of, because, when you find out there's nothing there, it's gonna kind of frighten you a little bit. But I don't remember feeling like there was some weird emotional connotation to it or anything like that. I just, afterwards, I was hyper aware and kind of like, like Scooby Dooing around every corner, like, what am I going to see now? Because that place, what was great about it is they did tell different stories about different things that have happened over the years. Like some of them were positive and some of them were kind of not negative per se, but scary, I guess, for the parties involved. But so there was a mix of good and bad that have happened there. So I think, but for me personally, I didn't have any like base level emotion into it other than I'm here at this haunted place. What might happen if nothing happens? That's cool. And then I see this and I was like, well, okay, something happened, of course, and I saw it.
So you had mentioned earlier you consider yourself a skeptic. I'm curious,
Yeah.
do you have any inclinations about what happens to us after we die?
No, I think that if anything, people are made up of energy, like whether that's ghosts or spirits or whatever that happens to be. It is, but I don't really have a belief that, like, I don't think there's like an afterlife per se, but there might be. I don't know. I mean,
None of
I'm
us know.
confident. I'm confident enough to say that I don't have like an idea, but I think that there's definitely energies, whether good or bad, neutral or whatever, because you can't really create energy. All energy is like borrowed from something. So I think that, if that's true for, say, like a light bulb or a lightning bolt, or, it's surely true for people. Because I mean, in our core, our nervous system is just, electrical connections and synapses in our brain. So that's got to go somewhere. So whether that's a life force, whatever you want to believe in, that it's there. But what happens after we die? I don't know. My gut reaction is to say that it just goes into everything, gets recycled into something else. But maybe we do leave an impression, and that's what ghosts are. Is they're an impression of our energies from before? So I don't know. I don't really have a clear answer on what I believe because I
Hey,
don't really know.
me either, man. Me
Yeah.
either. I like that. I guess there's a mix of like comfort I have,
Yeah.
like the idea you're talking about, and like a mix of like discomfort. Like I guess a part of me that sounds really nice to just go into the earth and like rest and like be
Yeah.
yourself and be. But
Or
then
wreak
another
havoc.
or recap, yeah,
Earthquakes.
just ruin the soil. Nothing will grow here.
I think for me, it's kind of, I think a lot of the reason why I believe that it's because of, people that are so ingrained to believe that there's something after life is they don't focus on their life now. It's always, well, if I'm worried, like I'm trying to get to this next level, I'm going to worry so much about what's next and what I can do to get to that next, as opposed to what I can do now in this moment.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of religion or beliefs or whatever it happens to be, I think a lot of people put too much stock in
Yeah.
the unknown and what's to come, as opposed to what they can do now and what's happening in front of them. Is, like, well, that's cool, believe that, but also like there are people dying in front of you,
Yeah.
I'm glad you're worried about their souls, but you could also help them now and they won't die or whatever.
That's like I it's funny you say that. I ask everyone that comes on the podcast that, like, what do you think happens after we die? And the best answer I've ever gotten was it doesn't matter, which is
Right.
basically what you're saying now. Like, focus on the now, focus on what
Yeah.
you do now, because ultimately it doesn't matter what happens after you die. It doesn't affect the now. And that's, I actually debate whether I should continue to ask that question, because I don't even know if it's a helpful line of thinking. And the reason I do, though, is because it's something I think about all the time. It's
Right.
like it's something that I think about too much.
No, well, I mean, like I said earlier, like I don't, like, for me, I don't mind those questions because, like, I'll tell you straight up, like, I believe in this and this, or if I don't know, I'll tell you. But some people, they might get offended by it, but I think a lot of that has to do with people that don't have the confidence in their own answer. So that kind of,
Yeah.
when they get those questions, a lot of people, I think, are quick to jump to not necessarily anger, but just kind of doubt, because they don't have a clear idea of what they want to say to themselves anyway.
Yeah.
And something you said about the reason that you do question it is because so many people do believe, not to misquote you, but that kind of reminded me of something that Alex said to me the other day, is that whether it's religion or what happens when we die, and I
Right.
believe a lot of semantics, I don't know anything, I'm very agnostic, but he said he believes that it's that collective belief that adds power to these things, that if enough people believe in something, they add power to it. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, that's what religion is, right? It's a collective belief in something. So yeah, I mean, the more people believe in something, the more people are inclined to jump on board, I guess. I think that's why when you have a small group of people, they're considered, crazy, or,
A
like,
cult.
oh, well, a cult, if even that. But I mean, there's a collective consciousness, and people find comfort in, you know, shared thoughts. So
Yeah.
I think whether that's good or bad, I mean, look at politics, not to go too deep into it, but I mean, if you have enough people saying that something's a fact, you're going to have people that jump in on that because it's easier to
For
You
sure.
join the bandwagon than it is to like stand out and say, well, hold on a second, that's
It's a
not,
religion.
I think
yeah,
precisely that,
religion.
whether it's politics or celebrities, if enough
Yep.
people are paying attention to something, it's going to have power regardless. I mean, I remember several years back, Friday by Rebecca Black, not to throw shade at it at all, but it's an example of something that, just generated a lot of attention by the pure nature that everybody was paying attention to it. It kind of shows you that you could do anything, and if you get enough people to stand beside you and look at that with you, that
Yeah.
it can do crazy things.
What's funny is me and Rebecca Black have the same birthday.
Oh shit.
Yeah, she was born on June 21st too. So
It
fun little
must be a
factoid.
powerful day.
Yeah, must be. But she's doing something I'm not. So what have I done?
I don't know. I think you're pretty successful in the things that you've done, and I think that it's only up from here. I think
Well,
you've had a big impact, and I think all of us have an impact that the world realizes before we do.
right,
It's our inner saboteur, like that voice in our head that tells us, like, oh no, the doubter in us.
It's like
right.
good to listen to your friends that, like value what you do, like your peers, because it's like
Yeah.
a lot of the time they're going to tell you more accurately than you are yourself,
Oh yeah,
Why are you
absolutely.
looking at me?
So like I think so there's a concept called egregore. There's also servitors, but basically an egregore is like if you have an idea of a god and everyone,
Right.
I think this is what we were talking about
Yeah,
the
yeah,
other
yeah.
day.
You know more than me.
If we had an idea of this god and a bunch of people get behind it,
Yeah.
I think that thing actually takes on a life of its own. I think when we talk about real and imaginary, I think that's English failing us. I think it's
Right.
a little bit different than that. I think what you imagine exists somewhere, and the more people you get on board collectively imagining this thing, it's alive. It has an energy to it. So all the gods exist. They come from us,
Right.
but I think they have a power outside of us because and I think that is a tribute to the human mind and how powerful the human mind is. We
Right.
create life
Or destroy
What?
it.
or destroy
Yeah.
Don't tell me
I
what
mean-
to do with my mind.
it.
I mean, that's kind of, I mean, Marvel's kind of dipping into it now, but even before that, the theory was always, if you can imagine it exists somewhere out there, like you can say, like if you say like, oh, well, this exists and, this person exists or whatever, then, oh, they probably do in another universe. So,
Yeah.
I mean, I forgot, there was actually a scientist, I need to look into that because I don't want to misquote anybody, but there was a scientist who had that theory that multiverses exist and that, if you can believe it or if you can conceive it in your mind, it exists out there somewhere.
Yeah.
And I've always thought that was kind of an interesting way to look at things.
And it's funny, the kind of concepts I'm expressing come directly from chaos magic, which is funny
Right.
that you brought up Marvel because Wanda,
Yeah.
the Scarlet Witch, is directly chaos magic. So
Yep.
they are taking these concepts from Phil Hines.
Yep.
Some of it's from Crowley, and they're adapting it in just straight out the book into.
Well, yeah. Yeah.
I
Like,
loved it. I love that
yeah.
shit.
Marvel and like comic books in general, I mean, they're just representations of like old stories told anew. I mean, it's, you gotta, if you can paint a lot of parallels between comic books and superheroes and all this stuff to, the Roman gods or the Greek gods or, even biblical stories. I mean, it's all, each generation, each century has its gods basically. And now we're just at a point where I think, if this was in like the 18th century, people would probably think that the Hulk was real and they'd probably make him a god. But now I think as a species, we've kind of evolved into, well, these are just stories that help us kind of organize our thoughts, or kind of, make the unknown more known to us, or give us knowledge that we wouldn't have otherwise.
And I think there's a bit of that, and then there's a bit of like the converse, where it's like like, for example, the Bible was written as a book of stories, but only recently, in the last 500,000 years, people start taking it literally. Like, it's a
Right.
literal, this shit literally happened, bro. The earth is 5,000 years old. Like,
Yeah.
ancient Israelites didn't believe that.
Right.
So it's like these ancient civilizations, I think there's a part of it where it's like we're talking about Greek gods too. I think this translates to like you could do a crossover with like the Bible or the Greek pantheon. But some of these stories are like, yeah, you probably tell them to your kids like they're real, because
Right.
like you don't want them to, there's a cautionary element to it. You want them to believe it enough, like Santa Claus. But like, but at a certain point of like coming of age, you start to realize that these stories are, and like if you ask the adults, they'll be like, no, Santa Claus is not real.
Yeah.
But what's happened is, like, the last 500,000 years, we all think Santa Claus is real. And like, it's frustrating to me, because I know scripture pretty well. And it's like, it's a real, you're missing the point if you think there's so much here that's like lost if you're taking a literal interpretation to it. But it gets back to the Greek too, like you were saying, like our gods now are superheroes, Spider-Man, Batman. It carries outside of that too, like our billionaires are for a lot of people, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Elon Musk. It's it's Trent Reznor, it's Billie Eilish, it's it's everybody, like rock stars. Like, we worship we worship the image of humans, like above humans, I guess, like human gods among men. That's what it is. Like whereas you had like you used to have mother god, like earth, and you used to have sun god, masculine, or like but now it's we recognize the gods within ourselves.
Right.
Namaste.
That was a tangent.
So I don't want to derail the conversation. Do you have anything else to add on this subject before I segue?
No, I'm good. I think that's a good segue point now.
Yeah.
Okay. To make it sad, it's become a Rhetoric rabbit hole staple. Do you recall the last time you cried?
Yesterday.
Love that.
Yeah.
Why? Was it?
It was the ending to No Country for Old Men, which I've seen probably 500 times, but it just got me in there. I don't know. I thought about it too much, and I was just like bawling my eyes out. I cry all the time. I don't care. I do. Like, I'll cry like,
healthy
6 times a week. I don't give a shit. Like, I don't hide my emotions at all.
Have you ever reached a point in your life where you were going through a period where you were experiencing sadness and you felt like you should cry, but you weren't able to? I feel like it's almost worse.
2020, a lot of that was that perpetually for months.
That's a good subject. What was 2020 like for you as a musician and a person?
It was awful. It was a really dark time, both emotionally and physically. But I got through it. But it was just a lot of I didn't know what was next, and I was afraid of what was to come would be so drastically different and unmaneuverable that I wouldn't have a direction or any kind of idea of where to go, because I had built so much in the years prior to that have it suddenly halt and nobody know exactly what was going to be next. It was kind of a big gut punch, and I know it was a lot worse for certain people than myself. I can kind of consider myself lucky that I got through it and didn't have to lose a whole lot, but for me it was a lot of I wasn't sure where it was going to go after that. I was, for the first 6 months I thought, well, this is it, this is what the life, this is what my life is going to be from here on out. So I think that kind of emotion was perpetually like every day of I want to cry, but I can't because I just don't have it in me, I guess. Yeah,
Yeah,
I think that was it.
I can relate to that in that time. That was a hard time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, I don't know that it's that far away again. Like it could easily, that could be our reality again. So I think we got to make the most of it.
Yeah. Well, it goes back to what I said earlier, like don't think too much about the future, live in what you have now
Mhm.
in your present, because next week may happen, but it also might not happen. So why put too much stock in worrying about it?
Yeah, and that's really true, John, because like I end up shooting myself in the foot when I think about the future too much. When I like try to
Yep.
make plans, and it's like be here now, enjoy the
Yep.
moment, like because it's fleeting, it's gone. Like,
Yep.
yeah,
To kind of bring it back a little bit more on topic to relate to music, I used to be real stressed out about booking shows or booking events that I was making myself sick over. Well, shit, it's only got a few months, 6 months, whatever it is, to get this figured out, and it was making it to the point where it was just emotionally draining because it wasn't happening the way I wanted it to, and I had to kind of step back and say, it'll happen in time. Just let it, like, focus on the shows you're doing now, and the rest will follow. Don't worry too much about booking the next 6 months, because those next 6 months will happen when they're supposed to. And then of course they did, and shows got happened, and then other shows got offered that I never would have even thought of, that had I been worried myself over it, it wouldn't have mattered. So I think that's something I've had to kind of pull myself into and say, okay, focus on this next few shows, and then you can plan the next few, and they will happen the way that they're supposed to, as opposed to worrying why they're not happening and why I don't have them in the books right now.
one step at a time, and the universe will take care of the rest.
I love that you
Yeah.
said that, because I'm sitting here like I feel you, and Alex like hits me. He's like, "Are you listening to him?" It's because I definitely feel that, as a fellow musician that's striving to make their mark on the scene. I describe it as living between the exclamations.
Yeah.
If I get a booking, then I'm ecstatic, but it only lasts me so long because I'm so worried. I'm like, well, once this gig passes, like what's next? I just want to get to a point where I know what's next.
Yeah.
And so it's really insightful to hear that by
Yeah.
overcoming that, you were able to take control of.
Well, here's my thinking. It's something that's kind of gotten me by, and this is kind of my dark thoughts, how I process things. But I always pretend like each show that it was the last one, and like that kind of helps me focus on it a little bit more. I just, in my mind, I think, well, this could be the last one.
Hey, it
for
always could
whatever
be.
reason.
Always.
It always could be.
Yeah.
So I treat it as such. So I'm not too, like, I don't hype myself up too much, but I'm also not too worried about what's going to happen after it's over, because there's always going to be that post-show depression. I mean, I get it now, and I do this all the time. But those next shows will come, whether big or small. Like the Memphis show kind of popped up out of nowhere, and here we are 2 weeks away from it. And I was stressing. You can ask my band. I was cutting my teeth in January because I had no plan for June or the summer. And then now I've got this, and I've got Industrial Night in August. I'm in the process of getting booked now. So it's something that you need to kind of look at in the sense of these shows. Music is so fluid and so weird, and bookings happen at such an odd time that it may not be until about a month before the show that you get something done. It doesn't have to necessarily be 6 months away. Now, there are certain shows that will happen far in advance and you can look for it, but not every show is going to be that way. And I think something I had to kind of teach myself is that not everything is going to be booked as easily as this show. And also on the flip side, not every show is going to be as difficult as this show was. But you just kind of got to live in that moment of, well, I've got this one, let me enjoy it, and let me just live in that stage presence for a second, because I may walk off that stage and never walk on another one. But then if I do, it makes it that much more exciting, I guess, because then I'm booking the next one, and then I'm like, oh, well, shit, well, this could be the last one. Might as well enjoy it just as much as I enjoyed the last one, if not more.
That's great.
So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, you're fine. That was basically it. But so just, live each show, and that's not just, maybe not just music, but everything. Live it kind of like it might be your last, and that way you can kind of absorb things that you don't think you would have absorbed if you had taken it for granted.
I feel like that's a good philosophy for life, but like I live for music, so we're gonna keep it there for now.
Yeah.
I think that that's something I can take home with me, and everybody watching can take home, is that play each show like it's your last, because you owe it to yourself and you owe it to the crowd, even if it's just one person that is there enjoying your music,
Yep.
And, I would love to hear about the best show you ever played, because I feel like that's what matters more than anything. It's like the venue and the sound are important and all, the lineup is important, but whether or not you're playing to an audience that understands you can make break you, and I would love to hear about your best show, and like one of your most difficult shows to get through, where maybe your confidence gets shattered halfway through. I remember I played a show and I felt okay, and then the bartender went up and told my friend working sound, like, hey, turn that down, and I just went into my head, and I didn't need to, because turns out after the fact there was a table from Iowa that was living for what I was doing, and I cut my set 15 minutes short and robbed myself. So what's your experience on that? Your best and worst shows?
My best show, I kind of have two. One was Industrial Night, actually the most recent one, 4. I think that was one of my best shows that we've ever done. It was fun. All of the lights were great. The audience was receptive. The set was fun. We didn't have any hiccups. Like, everything about that show was really, really good. And also on another show that wasn't Industrial Night, we played a show that kind of, again, popped up where I didn't know that we were gonna have a show. It was last December. We played a show in Chattanooga at this venue called The Signal. Large event space. It was, I think it's about the same size as Marathon is here in Nashville.
Gotcha.
So big room. Walked out, stage was huge. Like, I mean, I was so far away from my band, it was insane. Like, I'm so used to like being close to them. So the fact that they were like,
Don't let me elbow you.
like a Cobra stage away on either side of me was like insane. And that room was packed. I mean, we were the middle band to play. Everybody was there, was so excited. We had people afterwards begging us, like, when are you coming back? It was so rewarding. It was such a fun show that kind of came out of nothing. And I had no plan. I hadn't planned it. It was one of those where someone had just emailed me and said, hey, we have a spot. Can you fill it? And it wound up being one of the best shows we've ever done. And that kind of, again, tells you, like, sometimes you just kind of got to expect the unexpected, because the best show that you've ever done may fall into your lap.
Yeah.
One of the worst shows is actually, and this isn't a discredit to anybody involved, but was probably Industrial Night 3. That was a lot of, I had some stuff on my plate that I was stressed about. We had some issues with sound, we had some issues with lights. I was like, for the first half of the set, I had something like in my throat, like I could just feel it tickling in my throat. Like, nobody on stage or in the audience could see that, but I was having to like step away from the mic to cough because I felt like I was going to die. I mean, there was just a lot of just behind the scenes technical issues that just made it stressful. And after it was over, we were just like, fucking hey, let's just get off this stage and get out of here and go home and sleep it off, because this was just bad. But I mean, the audience enjoyed it. Nobody left saying this was a bad show, but for us as musicians, we sat back and said, yeah, this kind of sucked. Let's not do that again.
You're your own worst critic.
Yeah, we absolutely are. Every problem that we have, most of the time, it's just something that we noticed and no one else did.
Mm-hmm. That's the artist
that.
struggle.
Yep.
I mean, that's a good thing though. That
yeah.
Yeah.
I'd rather walk off stage and hate something that I did than be booed off stage or get the hook across the neck being pulled off.
So my next question is, I want to know what your favorite Nine Inch Nails song to cover is. However, I want to say first, I know you already answered this on Facebook, because I saw your Hurt is my favorite.
Stalker.
Hurt, I saw you perform at East Room, and Hurt, you that was fucking something.
Thank you. Yeah,
I
that's
know
a
you had specifically said that song is difficult for
You
you.
guys were incredible at the music room, at the East room. Not to
yeah.
derail, like you
Yeah.
had the megaphone. Like
Yeah, you
I
guys
was
fucking
here
killed
for
it.
it. I was like, let's go. Okay, continue.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. We definitely we have fun, and our philosophy is don't just do the music, put on a show, because anybody can go home and listen to Nine Inch Nails music. So why would they come and see a tribute band to a band that's still currently touring? Well, it's because we give you something more than just the music. We try to give you an experience. Yeah, Hurt's just difficult. It's just there's a lot of reasons why I don't like. I mean, not that I don't dislike seeing it. It's just I don't like performing it because it's so deeply emotional for me, and it's hard to get through it. And it's just we decided a long time ago that unlike Nine Inch Nails, we're not gonna end a set on that song, because he ends every show with Hurt. Every show he does, he ends with Hurt, and he walks off stage. That's his last song. He'll never do anything after that. We can't, like, I can't emotionally deal with that, because then I'm in that mindset for the rest of the night. It's hard to turn it off. So we have to end with like a rager, like a big party song, whether it's Last or Sin or whatever other songs that we've ended with, because I need something that's up to kind of bring the mood back up and I think it helps the audience too, because Nine Inch Nails is such a beast of a band that they can get away with loving everybody sad and like crying when they leave. But me, like, I want people to leave like the East Room or exit in feeling like, okay, that was fun. That was a good mind. But my favorite song to perform, I think I might have mentioned this in the status, but I really like doing Head Like a Hole. That's a classic. We've done that song every show that we've done, and I told my band that our last rehearsal that I still have fun performing that song. It's just a fun party song, and the audiences will usually always get involved and sing the chorus with me, and that's just really fun as a performer. I also we started doing a new song called Deep that's off of a soundtrack. It's off the Tomb Raider soundtrack. It
Okay.
was never released on an album. It's just a song for a movie. That's a fun one. But realistically, I think any song that we do that's new, I enjoy it the most because it's different. And then eventually it kind of falls into the shuffle because then we have other stuff that gets put in. But I think if we do a song for the first time and people enjoy it, I think the next time I do it, I look forward to doing it again, because I know that the audience is going to like it, or at least the last audience enjoyed it. So for me, it kind of gets me excited to do it again.
Right on. What what's your favorite album by Nine Inch Nails?
Oh,
I'm hitting
that's
you with
also tough.
the hard question.
Well, it's difficult because like when you're in a tribute band, it's kind of like you to be in a tribute band, you kind of got to like all aspects of a band. But for me, I'd say probably it's either With Teeth,
Okay.
because that album is very jazzy, and it's just, I think that's the album that really, really solidified my love of them. Because I mean, I knew of Nine Inch Nails before. I remember in '94 when the Downward Spiral was fucking huge. But I think With Teeth, when it came out, that one really just, I was like, okay, I really like this band a lot. Or The Slip. The Slip was a fun one. And I remember when that album came out, he released it for free. And he basically said, fuck record labels. I'm done with dealing with them. Here's my next album. Just have it. I don't care anymore. Yeah, he released it digitally on his website. And then he got released from his label. That was the whole point of him doing that, because he released it. So he made them mad. So they ended his contract, and he was able to build his own after that. But I just love that he wrote a spite album, and it wound up being such a fun,
Awesome.
angry, emotionally driven, just you can hear the intensity and the songs, and that to me is fun, because I think knowing the backstory but also hearing that in the words and the music really just kind of solidified that for me. And it's a fun album to perform too. It's very raw. There's a lot of just guitar and piano in it. There's not a lot of like electronic mixing like he's prone to do, and there's not a lot of overproduction like he does like with like the Fragile, where he spent like 10 years to make that album.
Did that's interesting. Did he do that out of pocket?
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, at that point, he you know,
Yeah.
by the time the Slip came out, he was already kind of a legacy band. I mean, he was after the Downward Spiral, he could have done pretty much anything he
I mean, at
wanted
that point,
to.
they've been out like 10, 15 years almost.
Yeah, so I mean, of course, it wasn't the first time he did something like that. He did what album was it? Broken, the EP. That was a spite EP that he did to piss somebody off, to piss off his old producer that he had. So so when he does these spite albums, that's when I'm like, okay, I'm ready, Trent, let's do it, because I think I'm probably gonna like it when you're angry at somebody. Uh, but yeah, he just put it out. He said, I don't care. Eventually, I mean, he made money off of it because he toured that album and he put it on CD eventually and vinyl. And you know, obviously he made money. He made his money back, but he's got a home studio. He didn't lose money really because he just recorded it at his home and just released it.
Who are some of your biggest influences outside of Nine Inch Nails?
I like Jonathan Davis is a big one. I like him a lot. I really love, and this is an actor, but Bruce Campbell was always a big influence on me, and Jeff Bridges. Those are two actors that I've always liked. A lot of my humor and kind of the movies and entertainment that I've gotten into is because of them.
Nice.
Who's another one? I've always loved Bowie. I thought I mean, this, of course, that's kind of a Trent Reznor thing too, but I think he was just such a oddball when he came out and so ahead of his time, and had that mindset of, I don't really care. I'm going to put it out. I don't care that it's not what people expect. I think that kind of is a good inspiration to be. It's like, you know,
Bowie.
Yeah, it's like what did he say? Fake it till you make it, and then look at him, you know, like one of the biggest stars of all time. So those kind of people I've always looked up to. You know, those kind of weird oddball people that say, you know what, I'm going to go against the grain a little bit and kind of put out things because I want to, not because I need to.
Yeah, that's real art. You know,
Yeah.
That's the artist kind of art instead of the commercial kind of art. It's like oh, and you mentioned Bruce Campbell. Bruce Campbell's huge for me too. That's funny. I fucking love Bruce Campbell.
Yeah, I mean, I've got the Book of the Dead tattooed on me because
Hell
of
yeah.
him. So like, I mean, in a way, I've got Bruce Campbell's hand on my arm. So that's kind of
sick. Yeah,
Yeah.
Evil Dead's huge for me.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. What other horror movies?
Oh, that's a whole other podcast, dude.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, horror. I mean, my whole arm is like horror themed and stuff and movies. So like,
That's what's up. We're gonna have to do another
Yeah, I was about
podcast.
to say,
yeah, it'll have to be like
I have
that's
more questions than we have time at this point.
yeah. So I mean, you know, a short list I can give you: Nightmare on Elm Street, The Dream Warriors, The Thing, Creep Show, you know, Evil Dead, stuff like that. Yeah, those movies like that. Tales from the Crypt. You know, all those are things that I really can say have influenced my love of horror. So yeah, but there's so many more, so many like examples I gave you. But it's my life is my life is planned around when's the next horror thing or when's the next, you know, horror movie coming out kind of deal.
Nice.
I paid like $80 for a Tales of the Crypt collection just so I was like, I have this. You can't take it from me. I can watch it whenever. But I always
yeah. I kind of did the
up.
same thing. I have all the seasons on DVD, and it took years of searching to find them all because they were so sporadically released that it was hard to kind of find them. But I remember when I finally got the last 8 season, I was like, I did it. I can die now because I completed my Tales from the Crypt collection.
So segue back to music, because I have a couple questions. Was there like a pivotal moment in your life where you remember realizing, holy shit, this is what I want to do, this is how I communicate with the world?
What was a pivotal moment? You know, it's weird because I wasn't really a performer whenever I had that realization. I wasn't performing on stage. I was attending a show. It was some of my idols here in Nashville, and luckily I can say they're some of my friends. But the guys that did the rock and roll residency at Mercy Lounge, Jeremy and Phil and all them, they did this free show every Tuesday night of like 3 hours of, you know, old like thrash metal, hair metal stuff in the 70s and stuff like that. And I just remember going there and seeing what they did and kind of seeing the community of people that came out to support them and all of that. And it really kind of, it made an impression on me of, I want to do this, and I kind of want to have this kind of party happen, and so I think that was what really sat me down one night, and I was like, I want to do this. I want to plan something like that. And that's kind of where the seeds of Industrial Night began, and even Not Your Nails kind of began from seeing that and saying, I want to do something like that. I want to be like these guys and have people not necessarily look up to me, but come to a show that I put on and say that was fun. So I think that was a pivotal moment for me, seeing those shows.
Absolutely. And I can't speak for everybody, but I feel like for a lot of musicians, music just helped them out at a time in their life where they felt alone and they were looking for something to relate to, somebody that showed them that they understood, something that made them feel empowered. And I think for me, at least, and a lot of people, they create music because they want to be able to give back to the community in the same way that they received. And a lot of what you said segues into my next question. And you can decline to answer just because you probably have too many, but are there any local musicians in Nashville that you would love to give a shout out to that you think deserve to have their name out there?
Sure. No, actually, the Deads, they are, they're some of my good friends, and they are really some people there. Those girls, they made a huge impression on me as far as what I felt like music should be. And my Instagram handle is still my Dead's name and stuff like that. So they, you've seen me on Facebook. My profile picture for the last 5+ years is me and Daisy Dead, So I credit a lot of what I do and kind of the what I have in music because of them and their example that they set, and kind of the love that I felt going to their shows and the community that they created with their fan base. I really wanted to emulate that in a small way, in whatever way I could. And I don't necessarily have a fan base like they have, but I have people that love seeing us, and we have interest, and I think I completely credit that to them and kind of what they've done. Another person that I really loved seeing was Samantha Francis. She had a band called Francis and the Foundation that ended. I think it ended. I think they broke up in 2020, but she's working on some new stuff. But I always loved her and her drive and her love of music for the sake of doing it.
I just
And
got
she's
back from,
really.
I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just
Oh, yeah.
I just got back from Gatlinburg with her drummer and
Yeah.
Nathan and Wes from
That's
shout out to Francis and Foundation.
yeah.
Fuck out of them.
I love them. Yeah, I love their music, dude. I have like so much of their stuff. Like
They played house parties one time.
You got Alex
Yeah.
so excited. You're about to fill up our next release dates. With the band. Keep going.
Up. Yeah, no, that's exactly what I was thinking, is how have we not had Deads on?
Yeah, well, I mean, now's the time to get them. I mean, hell, they're doing songs with Corey Taylor and and all this stuff, and going on tour with The Darkness and all that. Like they're getting too big for me now, I feel like. I actually am excited. I got Daisy on a song with me on Industrial Night. That's always
nice.
If she's in town, I always try to plan that. So luckily she's in town, so we're doing a Gary Newman song at Industrial 5, so that'll be fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
We are running out of time. Jonn, thank you so much for being here, dude. This has been a blast.
Absolutely. I'm glad I was able to do it.
Not Your Nails is going to be in Memphis on June 10th. Do you know where that's at?
It's at a place called the High Tone. It's their new location. They just opened a new bar venue last year, but we're going to be in the big room at the High Tone.
And that's with Gonna Be Friends. If you're in Memphis, Alice, don't miss that. And then in July 9th, we got Industrial Night. Wait, was the 6th?
At Exit In.
At Exit In.
9th,
yep.
Yeah.
The 9th at Exit In. Yep. Starts at 8 and rolls on through until the end of the night.
Yep. I'm really excited about that. Alice, you'll see all of us there. Don't be late. It's going to be
Well, thank you. yeah, I hope y'all come, and I hope y'all enjoy it.
It's on our calendar.
Well, John, I would love to do this again sometime whenever we have the time. You've been a great guest. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'd love to do it again. Let's plan it.
Yep. And Alice, you'll see us next week. Have a good night. See ya.
Yeah.
Bye.